Thanks for joining us, Congresswoman. You worked in President Biden's Office of Management and Budget. That's the very agency now at the center of this shutdown. When you hear Russell Vought talk about firing federal employees within 1 to 2 days, firings, he says, would be consequential. What does that tell you about how the Trump administration is handling all this?
Well, first, let me just say the Trump administration has already, Russ Vought and the Trump administration have already been doing this, launched an all-out assault on the federal workforce. So what Russell Vought is talking about today is not anything new. It's just more of the cruelty that this administration is inflicting upon the federal workforce. And let me just say, who's going to pay the consequences for this? Of course, those that are going to potentially lose their jobs, which I do not want to see, but also the services, the very services that constituents that I represent in the 13th district are going to be hurt by. We reach out to agencies every day, helping people obtain their benefits for Social Security, VA questions that they might have, IRS questions. If you're going to continue to cut to the bone the federal workforce, this is going to hurt the very services that our constituents need.
And your district includes a lot of federal workers, families who may rely on programs like the Women, Infants, and Children Nutrition Program, or WIC, with the National
Yes.
WIC Association warning that those funds could run out in just a week. What does all this mean for young families in central and southern Illinois?
Well, I've been raising the alarm on this even prior to this WIC program, as you talked about, could be impacted by a potential government shutdown. But the $187 billion of cuts that this administration has made, in addition to that, to SNAP, we're going to have more hungry people, more hungry children in this country, in the richest country in the world. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why are they making these cuts? The Trump administration has made it clear that they want to give more tax cuts away to the top 1%, to the billionaires, to the folks that have, quite frankly, quite enough in this country, at the detriment, to the harm of hungry children in this country. And while there are a lot of these fights that we are talking about, what this government shutdown, though, is really about is actually healthcare. I mean, the manufactured healthcare crisis that the Trump administration and Republicans have forced on the American people. As a Democrat, I am calling this out. Enough is enough.
Yeah, I want to dig into that sticking point in this big negotiation. The Kaiser Family Foundation, a big healthcare expert, they now estimate that the Affordable Care Act premiums could more than double next year if these subsidies, these enhanced subsidies, are allowed to eventually expire. That's why Democrats are digging in here. So what's your message to families in your district who can't afford that? And what's your plan to keep those costs down if this shutdown continues?
Yeah, to the 17,000 constituents that I represent that are going to see their premiums skyrocket because of the Trump administration. This is heartbreaking because what you see is healthcare in this country, again, the richest country in the world, becoming less affordable, less accessible for families that are working, just trying to make ends meet. You see a full all-out assault again on not just not extending these tax credits, but also on Medicaid. $900 million, almost $1 trillion of cuts to a Medicaid program. And for a rural district like mine, many of the healthcare providers that provide healthcare to families throughout central and southern Illinois rely on those dollars to keep their doors open. That is what this fight is about. I don't believe that any short-term or long-term budget for our federal government should not address this healthcare crisis that Republicans are putting on working people in this country.
Nationwide, 20+ million people are on the Affordable Care Act with these enhanced subsidies and are directly impacted. Everyone's health insurance could eventually be indirectly impacted, but you've heard the Republican rhetoric here. If you look at that big number of 22, 24 million people that are on the enhanced subsidies, there are a fraction of people in that pool who are not American citizens. They may be here legally, they may be here under asylum, they may be here with the proper paperwork or waiting for a court document, but they're not American citizens. So Republicans, as you've seen, they're framing this fight as Democrats trying to give away health care to undocumented immigrants.
When you're losing a fight, you distract and you lie. And that is just quite frankly what the Republicans are doing. What I hear from constituents in my district is they are making very difficult decisions that the Trump administration refuses to acknowledge, which is high costs of groceries going up, healthcare costs going up, energy prices going up. The question should be posed to the Trump administration and the Republicans who have full control of Washington, D.C. right now. What in the hell are they doing to support working people? That's what I'm doing in Washington while they're at home. I am here. I'm willing to negotiate with Republicans and Democrats to come together to address these rising costs. But the Trump administration has turned their back on working people.
Your district includes a lot of federal workers and contractors. I understand you plan to be in the Metro East on Thursday this week, rallying with some of them. What are you hearing right now directly from that workforce now that the government is closed?
Well, there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of anxiety. I mean, I serve on the House Veterans Affairs Committee, and we've seen already the deep cuts to the workforce that this administration has forced on the VA. The VA, which has already been, prior to this administration, been struggling with staffing shortages. What this means for people, what this means for our veterans, for our nation's heroes, is that they're going to have increased challenges in getting the medical care that they so rightfully deserve. So I am going to be rallying with the workforce to highlight what these cuts are going to mean for services, and for obviously also about 11,000 federal employees that I'm honored to represent in Washington throughout my district, that their livelihoods are being threatened and are at stake.
The term itself, government shutdown, is Washington speak, frankly. We seem to hear it all the time. The money runs out. It's this five-alarm fire, it seems, in D.C. And the rest of the country, I think, a lot of times scratches their heads and wonders what's really going on. We were down this road 6 or 7 months ago, back in March. At the time, it bottled up in the same spot in the Senate. And Senate Minority Leader Schumer and your ally, Dick Durbin, both said, we can't afford a government shutdown. If we do that, we give the president the wrecking ball that his Doge desires. We give the president new powers to make deep, lasting cuts, and we can't afford it. Now there's a different calculation. Was Senator Durbin right then, or is he right now?
Well, what I think has happened over the course of these last 6 months things have only gotten worse. And I think specifically around healthcare. And the passage of the big ugly bill happened since this last 6 month short-term funding gap was put into place. And I think all of us in the Senate and in the House, we see the real-time impacts that it is having on working people. And yes, Mark, I think that's true. It has completely changed the calculus. The manufactured healthcare crisis that the Republicans have created since the last short-term funding bill was put into place, we have to see this addressed. We have to see this addressed. And whether Republicans want to acknowledge it or not, they are in full control of Washington, D.C. They've made it very clear that they are the ones in charge. But because of votes that are required in the Senate, 60 votes are required. They don't have 60 votes in the Senate. They're going to have to work with Democrats in order to reopen the government. And all we're asking is please, please, for the families that we represent, address the premiums that are skyrocketing, address the cuts to Medicaid, address what they're doing to rural health and rural hospitals in this country. Do the right thing. That's what we're asking them to do.
All right, so bottom line, last question for you here. If Democrats don't win this fight in the end and premiums do in fact go up, aren't you still going to have to be the one to explain to your voters why those bills are soaring next fall?
Well, I'm going to explain exactly what I've been doing to fight this administration all along the way on what they're doing to healthcare in this country. Healthcare should not be a privilege. It should be a right in this country, something that is affordable and accessible to all families. I'm going to fight for that every day, and I will, until to the last day I serve in office.
All right, Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mark.